Hey guys, MCU Collector here with another figure review. Next up is the Hasbro Marvel Legends series, the Eternals Deluxe figure of KRO. This is the main villain. He is a Deviant. Beyond that, I have no idea what's going on in the movies. I'm not familiar with the Eternals at all, so I'm going to be going into this completely blind, not understanding really much about the story and who they are. I do know that KRO, from the comics and now into the movie, are two extremely different looks. So not really sure what's up with the design change for the movie to kind of really stray off so far from the source material. It's an interesting thing. But GameStop had this in stock. They probably still do. I'll include a link in the video description below to check it out. But I did receive it today, and I am excited. The movie figures don't interest me a whole lot other than the fact that they're MCU. I'm an MCU collector. I love the movie figures. I love the movies. So we'll kind of see. But beyond that, that's just kind of the connection I have to them. Well, maybe having them in hand, I'll be a little bit more excited and impressed with them. I don't know, but they're kind of blah. But this figure is very weird and different looking, so I was really excited to get this one above the other Eternals figures, which I will also have here in the next few days, and we'll review when I get back from Universal Studios Hollywood this weekend. But looking at KRO, looking at the side artwork of KRO, actually looks really cool. We did see him in the trailer, but in the trailer he looked like kind of a lightish gray color, whereas on the figure he looks to have like almost black in color, but it's almost got this oily look to it with all these different colors, which you can kind of see highlighted here on that side artwork, which does look pretty interesting. Here on the back of the package, we have a look at the figure as well as the arms or tentacle-like thing. I don't know. This figure is going to be weird, so we'll kind of check it out. But the bio for KRO reads, a powerful deviant unlike any other the Eternals have faced over the millennia. KRO's appearance is the harbinger of a global threat. What that means, I have absolutely no idea, but I'm excited to see the movie. I like that Eternals logo there. We also get it up at the top. But without further ado, let's get this thing out of the package. Okay, so just taking it out, we have the base figure there. God, his feet look like they're like puddles, like he's going. I know there's been like, oh, this is the MCU symbiote thing. I don't think that's the case. However, there are some similarities, but I don't think it's going to be leaning towards that in any way, shape, or form. Just thought I'd mention that because I had seen the talk about that because people had mentioned it, you know, when the figure was first shown. But there's also this trait which has these crazy like tentacle pieces. It looks like a couple of these pieces are probably going to port onto his back. And then at like the mid forearm, the arms come off, and then you can replace them with this. But these things are crazy looking. They're black in color, and then they go into this gold, but we get some metallic green in there. It's kind of interesting looking. So let's see how it all looks together. Okay, and here is the KRO figure out of the package, and this thing's kind of crazy. I'm not entirely sure how to really feel about it. I do like the figure. In terms of an action figure itself, it's pretty cool. It's got a lot of like weird looking things to it, and then the shiny metallic colors kind of pop and stand out. But it's just really weird. Like these tendril things, whatever the hell's going on, take up a lot of damn space. And these arm like, you know, replacements are so heavy they kind of fall, and then as I do it, it stays and it doesn't go anywhere. But it can be a little bit difficult getting like one of the arms to kind of stay up and stuff. It's kind of weird. So like here are the arms. You just pop them off at the forearm, as you can see there, and then you just know which one goes which based off of the hand. But the interchangeable pieces, whatever the new hand tendril things are, actually say left and right, so you know which arm they go on to I guess to get it to kind of look right. But this thing again is just it's kind of crazy. You got these two pieces back here that port in, like you got this one that ports on that side. This is the one that loops over to his right, even though it ports on the left. This one that ports on the right goes all the way to his left. It's all pretty crazy. So let's get in for a closer look at the details of the figure. I'm going to swap out, kind of take off some of these parts so they're not really in the way. But let's take a closer look because there's some weird things going on with the sculpt. And it's going to help when I see the movie to understand why the figure looks the way it does and kind of what's going on. I think that's going to kind of be important for this. So we'll see, but let's take a closer look. Okay, so here's kind of the zoomed in look, and I tried to brighten it up the best I can so you can kind of really see the details in the sculpt. But there is just some crazy things going on there. One thing though that I think the figure really fails to do is kind of show his eyes. Now, from the trailer, it looked like he had several eyes. Hopefully I remember and put a picture up here so you can kind of see it. But from the trailer, it looked like he had several eyes on his face. But here on the figure, it looks like we get 2 on his left and then 2 on his right. They're not detailed at all. We just get a little bit of white paint, it looks like, for his eyes. But they look like actual eyes, I believe, from the trailer. Again, I'll have to go and take a closer look. But kind of interesting. But the paint apps on this are pretty incredible. You could see like the purple over there at the top of the shoulders, and then we get this dark green here on the chest into this light greenish yellow color there. It's kind of crazy looking. We get a little bit of that yellow through here on his abs, which you can kind of see. But it's subtle to kind of give it a little bit of definition to it, but not a whole lot for it to like really pop and stand out. But you could see it's there. So it's pretty crazy. We got these tendril pieces coming up from his back, which is just kind of crazy. They're all like real soft rubber, so it looks like they're all just like, you know, glued in there. We get these 2 big ass ports on the back, as you can see there, and you can see that there are different shapes. So, you know, you can't put these tendril pieces in the wrong spot. You know, the shape is going to line up with it. So as you can see there, there's like a circle with a cut in it, and then it's going to fit in there. One thing that I really, really like is, again, the paint apps on this are pretty incredible. As I port that on there, is look at that like reddish purple, dark purple magenta color in there. It just looks incredible, really stands out really nice into that tendril, and then it goes into a black color, and then as it gets down towards the end, we get this nice gradient gold in there to the gold tip. So that all looks really cool. We get these like this strand look to the tendril as it gets kind of down here. You still see it a little bit in the sculpt, not as much. For the most part, it's pretty smooth, and then until it gets to kind of the end there, and you can kind of see that kind of tendril sculpt to it, or the, you know, the stringy sculpt to it. So it's all very, very interesting. I'll remove that so I can kind of move it around. So that tendril piece had some of that purplish magenta color. Throughout the rest of the back, we get it a little bit. It's kind of subtle, but not a whole lot there. We get a little bit of the green right here on his lower back, so that is really cool. We get a little bit on his right butt cheek there at the hip, which is kind of interesting. But on the left, it looks like they kind of skipped out and didn't really do it, or they did it a little tiny bit, but it's barely even noticeable, like if at all. I think there's like a faint little hint towards it, but not a whole lot. But looking at the legs, we get a little bit of gold down here at the ankles, but it's all kind of this greenish color. It's all kind of gradient throughout. The left leg definitely looks like it has more of that paint than the right, but we do still see it a little bit there. The feet kind of have this puddle like symbiote look to it. I don't know if it's just kind of, you know, coming up in some sort of liquidish form, and this is just kind of how he stabilizes himself on there. It's kind of interesting. You know, I wouldn't consider necessarily these toes, but they kind of stick out to help, you know, give it a little bit of support. But, you know, you can see a little bit of that gold paint there on the feet as well. Yeah, but it's kind of crazy. We get some of that nice purple in the biceps in there. Same on the left side. The hands, we get a little bit of that green color throughout. It's just kind of crazy. The sculpt throughout this figure is pretty insane. One thing that would have been really nice though is if we had pinless. So these got pins at the elbows, pins at the knees. So one of the live streams, they kind of alluded to having more time to develop the Eternals figures. I don't think that's the case. I think these figures were sitting in a warehouse somewhere for a year waiting for the green light to get these released, because they didn't know when the actual movie was going to release due to the delays and whatnot from Disney on the theatrical release. I'm trying to think. The original theatrical release I thought was planned for November of last year. And then it got a full year-long delay. I don't think it got a second delay or anything like that. But it was weird that the first initial delay was from November 2020 to November 2021, whereas some of the other movies did shift the release dates but it just took over like the next movie spot. But Eternals was like, nah, let's just bump it a full entire year. So it's going to be interesting. They really wanted to release that movie, you know, at the holiday Christmas time for whatever reason, you know, and Marvel knows what they're doing. So it's going to be interesting. I'm glad Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings performed well at the box office, or well enough for there to be confidence in releasing these movies in theater. I would imagine for this movie, like, you know, IMAX is probably the best way to see it. I don't know if I'm going to watch it in IMAX. I don't typically go to IMAX too often, but this movie might be a crazy spectacle and all kinds of visually stunning things that I'd be tempted to go. Because if you got characters that look like this damn thing, might be pretty crazy. But let's zoom out for his articulation. Okay, so starting with the articulation up at his head, you get a full rotation, of course. You get some crazy pivot going on in there because it is on a dumbbell joint, as you could see there when I pop the head off. You can look up quite a bit, down a little bit, not quite all the way. The shoulder you can get to go up that high there. You get a full rotation. You do have an upper bicep swivel in there. We get a double jointed elbow, like so you get that much bend at the elbow. Wrists swivel, and they do hinge. Keep in mind there is that forearm swivel, because that's where you're actually gonna pop that off at the forearm there, and then you would get the one that is for the left arm. So like this one actually has an L printed on there right there, so we're gonna pop that on there. So you get that tendril piece there. Nice bright metallic green into the gold gradient from the black into the gold. Just looks really good. And of course you could do a swivel on there. Again, not really sure how this is going to play into the movie, so it is going to be interesting. Because those pieces are quite large, I'm going to move it back to the regular piece to kind of finish off the articulation. Looking at the body, he can tilt and pivot to his left that much. He can pivot to his right that much. He can go back only slightly, not really a whole lot. Coming forward isn't really a whole lot either. And then the sculpt itself is kind of really broken up in the back when you do that. Because it's a diaphragm joint, we have the swivel at that diaphragm joint. There is no waist swivel on this guy. Legs go out that far apart, which is quite far. He can kick forward that high there. Leg goes back actually quite a bit. You do have an upper thigh cut in there. We get a double jointed knee, which you could do like that, and the way the shape of the leg itself is kind of weird, so the calf can hit the back of the quad, so kind of interesting there. But double jointed knee, there's no boot swivel or calf swivel or anything. Foot hinges all the way down, that little puddle like foot hinges up a little bit, not a whole lot, but it's there. Ankle pivot, peg holes at the bottom of the feet. It does say 2020 Hasbro on there, so again, I think this figure has been sitting in a warehouse somewhere for a year. I don't know that to be fact, but I think that has been the case. Of course, you know, some of these figures did manage to get into the hands of a few folks at this time last year. In fact, I think the KRO figure was out there probably even before, like in September, because I remember September, October, I remember someone on OfferUp in Southern California had one available, and I was really tempted to get it. I tried reaching out to see if he would ship, but he would not ship it out, and then eventually it just finally sold. But I guess I'm kind of glad I waited, because now we have a trailer to the movie, and we kind of see a little bit of what's going on, as opposed to being completely blind, not understanding a single thing about it, and which I still really don't. We just know the Deviants kind of look a little bit weird. We've seen a lot that kind of look more animal-like, but this guy's here, you know, in the trailer, he's picking up Athena, Angelina Jolie's character. That figure has not released, whereas GameStop is shipping out some of the Gilgamesh Build-A-Figure wave. Athena will be exclusive to Target. Ajax will be exclusive to Walmart. We have no information on when pre-orders will be available, or if it's even going to be a pre-order, if it's going to be an in-stock order. We shall see. One thing that I'm going to do here while I'm at it, though, is to pop off that right forearm like so. We're gonna get this crazy ass tendril. I mean, look at this one. Again, it starts green at that forearm, then goes to black and gradient into the gold. But this one is all over the place. I mean, look at this one, like goes out and then it just curves right on back. This one's kind of crazy, but then this one, because it's so much larger, it's actually quite heavy, and sometimes the arm just can't really support it. Like if you want to try and lift it up, it's gonna kind of droop down because the bicep swivel just isn't as strong. Kind of, so if you could just do that, and it's just gonna kind of go down there. But like this is kind of crazy what's going on here. It's kind of nuts. But I think some folks will be able to do some pretty awesome things with some pics. I am not talented enough with photography to do anything to really make that stand out and look cool, but I'm hoping some people will definitely be able to. We're gonna pop that off. We're gonna pop the arm right back on there. We're gonna get these other two tendrils, and again, they're shaped so you can only put them in certain ones. But I mean, just look how much wider it's gonna make the thing. So when, you know, displaying this guy, you really have to think about space-wise, like on the sides of the figures and stuff. But I love the pinkish color, and then as it goes into the black, it's just insane. But look at how wide that thing now gets because of this. But yeah, just crazy stuff. Crazy. Okay, so inhaled farts, this one is for you. The Venom head actually does pop right on into there, but I mean, I guess it doesn't look terrible. So in terms of some kind of customization options, it's something that you could do to match the paint. The only other thing would be the head is kind of smooth, whereas the figure itself has kind of a lot of texture to it. But again, it does pop on there. So you could do some kind of crazy symbiote with it. I saw a number of people comment Groot, or I am Groot, on my Instagram post when I first did this. Now I could see some resemblance in kind of the texture of the figures and kind of how they made made it look. Obviously they are not similar in any other way, although they are aliens. They both have kind of the larger feet that kind of help them keep them planted to the ground, but they are obviously very, very different. Same actual like articulation scheme. They both have these parts that kind of stay. God, you know what? It's a lot like it, but obviously character-wise, it's not going to be anything similar. And Groot is actually taller. At first, I didn't think Groot would be. I really forgot how tall this Groot figure is. This is the evolution of Groot. This was that Toys R Us exclusive, which then got re-released as part of the one of the Earth Days 2020, probably. Or whatever it was. But man, I actually really like this figure. It's kind of been a while since I've kind of messed around with it. But yeah, just awesome. And towers over Crow. As big as Crow is, Groot is just a hell of a lot bigger. Now, it's kind of unfortunate that we don't get like tendril things. Like, how cool would it have been if we had something like this growing out of Groot's arm as kind of some of the things that he had done in the movie. In the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, you know, accessories like this would have been really cool. So I'm sure there's some talented customizers out there that can figure some stuff out, because obviously there is a port and peg hole here, but obviously there's not anywhere for this to peg onto Groot, and then somebody would have to paint to color match. But I'm sure there's something that some folks out there could do, and that'd be pretty interesting to see. So unfortunately, I can't do any size comparisons with the other figures from the Eternals movie. However, once I do get those Eternals movie figures, then I will be able to do some size comparisons as I review those figures to see how much bigger and taller Crow is compared to other characters from that movie. So again, this is a difficult one. Not really understanding anything about who the Eternals are, who the Deviants are, how the MCU is putting a spin on it from the comics. We shall see, because again, very different look for Crow as compared to the comics. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see. Now, I know not a lot of people are big fans of the character designs for the figures. So whether it's just because the designs don't translate well into plastic form, into toys, or not toyetic, it kind of remains to be seen. I think having them in hand, I'm going to appreciate them more. But even I could admit that they're not the best looking action figures. They're not the best Marvel Legends figures. Having them in hand, my mind could change a little bit, and I tend to get excited about these figures as I have them in hand, especially movie figures. And it's not often that we get like every character from an actual movie. So it's really cool that the Eternals wave being all MCU, we get, you know, the 7 figures in the wave, which builds Gilgamesh, so that's 8 figures. Plus we have Crow, which makes 9 figures for the movie. Then Ajax is coming out, Thena, the 2 store exclusives. So that's 11 figures from the Eternals movie, which is pretty crazy, especially for a first origin movie, right? We don't get that many figures like that from one movie. You know, we still need so many other figures, and we miss out on villains all the time. So it's cool that we actually got the villain here, and it's cool that we get all of the characters from the movie. So I'm excited. You guys let me know down in the comments below all your thoughts. What do you think of this Crow figure? I mean, I have a feeling I'm going to be bombarded in the comment section about trash. These things look like crap. I'll wait for clearance, blah, 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 this and that, so on and so on. And that's okay. Express your concerns, but let's all do it respectfully. And that is it. But you guys let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you for watching.